Welcome to episode number 42 of Hitting for the Cycle. I'm Ryan Touhey, and I am rejoined by my usual co-host, Ben Kruse, who is back from vacation in Bermuda. And Ben, how are you doing today?
Good, Ryan. Glad to be back. As you mentioned, for those that didn't know, I was in Bermuda last week on vacation. I was on a cruise to celebrate my mom's early birthday, which is going to be in August, but we couldn't be able to do it next month because my brother is going to be working for his job, not physically at the Olympics, but for the Olympics for his company. So we celebrated early with them, and really good overall trip. Good weather for the most part, and haven't been on a cruise since I've been younger. So it was really cool. But glad to be back too, Ryan. Glad to be back. I got back to Connecticut on Sunday this past week, so been at work a couple days, and now back into the routine of things, and back to the routine being with you. So can't heard about that either.
Yeah, I like you. I wish I had your positivity and your mood this morning. As you can see, I've hit a breaking point. I have this this piece of paper that has the word loser written on it that I have taped to my forehead. I guess for people who have listened to us all season long, you probably understand why I have this taped to my head and what this stands for. And I'm sure I'll get into that a little bit more in this episode. But before we do, let me just remind everybody to please follow Hitting for the Cycle on Facebook, X, and Instagram at HFTC Follow the Empty the Bench Podcast Network at ETB Network. Follow our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ETB Network. And finally, listen to us on whatever platforms you listen to your podcasts.
And as always, guys, this episode you guys presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together, where everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback watching sports, fully interactive and a social experience, from playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/HB Network to find more, including our live stream schedule. We're getting more sports coming in for not for Empty the Bench, for Playback with Empty the Bench. So we will pretty much update with you guys more about that stuff. So make sure to tune into all that great stuff.
All right, so let's get into it. So as of the day of this recording, it is July 25th. And the trade deadline is quickly approaching. It's going to be here before we know it. And the rumors and the news are starting to really heat up. And as teams get into the final stretch of the regular season, there are going to be some changes, obviously. So I was doing some research, and there were some notable things that Major League Baseball analysts have been discussing. And among them are obviously pitching rumors. A name that's been thrown around a lot has been Tarik Skubal of the Detroit Tigers. According to numerous sources, including Anthony Castrovince of MajorLeagueBaseball.com, the Orioles have been in links with Tarik Skubal. They've been thinking about trying to acquire him to help bolster that rotation. The Orioles have been in a slump as of recently, and they could definitely use some help to add to that starting rotation. Tarik Skubal is obviously a leading Cy Young candidate, and many teams are going to be inquiring about his services. But for me personally, I don't know if the Tigers are going to be willing to part ways with Skubal just yet. I mean, they're on the rise, and they have some young talent. I don't know why you would want to part ways with one of your biggest assets for your future so soon. I think that they should maybe hold off on giving up somebody the caliber of Skubal and just hold on to him for a few more years. I think it's too much of a risk for the Tigers to do something like that. I mean, unless the return package is astronomical. So I don't know if I would see the Tigers parting ways with Skubal. I think there's absolutely no doubt in my mind, though, that the White Sox are going to be parting ways with Garrett Crochet. And I've said time and again that I could see Crochet going to the Orioles at the deadline. I think he's the leading candidate for that because the Orioles have arguably the deepest and richest farm system in all of baseball. And there's also been talk. The Chicago Cubs, they announced that they're going to be selling at the deadline as well. So a lot of their talent is going to be up for grabs. The Cubs, I don't know really how much they have to offer at the deadline. Obviously, they have Cody Bellinger. He'll probably, I would assume, be the biggest name that they'll put on the table. So honestly, when it comes to a player like that, for teams who could use a first baseman, one of the teams that jumps to my mind there are the Houston Astros. They Dana Brown, their general manager. He mentions how the Astros are in the market for a new first baseman and some arms as well. Basically, every team going into the deadline that's going to be looking to upgrade their team is going to be looking at starting pitching. There's an old saying, you can never have enough starting pitching. And that is absolutely true, in my opinion. So pitching is going to be very competitive. It's going to be kind of a bloodbath among the teams who are in it to win it, to get all the help of arms as possible. But Ben, I just wanted to get your take on some of the things that you've heard over the past couple of days or weeks. I want to get some of your predictions on where some guys are going to go as we get closer and closer to this deadline. I know we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now on some other episodes, but has your opinion changed on anything, or has your stance not changed on certain things?
Well, first of all, Ryan, I'm not going to go through every single list of
Yeah.
guys that I have, but I made a full-on list here of pretty much every guy that I predicted to go to so-and-so.
Okay.
So I'm not going to go through all of these
Mhm.
specifically, but I will kind of go bounce off in terms of what you're talking about. So your first thing you mentioned was Tarek Skubal.
Mhm.
I don't think he's going to get moved. I think specifically the Tigers would be foolish for him to go. The Tigers, I think, are only 3 games under 500. I think that a guy like Mark Canha could be potentially a guy that they could be maybe moving him. Your old friend Gio Urshela could maybe have some interest. So I think that like those type of guys could get on the move. Of course, Jack Flaherty yesterday could be one of the top guys as well on the market. So I think there's gonna be a lot of services for him. But Skubal and the Orioles, I think the biggest thing with the Orioles is they have such a good farm system going for them. As great as Skubal is, I don't see why they would want to kind of start depleting some of their farm system for. I know he's a great ace and stuff, but the Orioles, I think, can be able to bounce around and maybe go after like that second tier type of arm and still be able to kind of compete to keep their team within reach and not have to go and give up a lot of their assets for a guy like Terrace Skubal. Um, I think Skubal is the future there at Detroit. I think a lot of teams would want him overall. I do disagree with you, Ryan, respectfully on Crochet with the Orioles, because the thing about Crochet at the deadline is he's going to want to get paid as a starting arm, but he's pretty much already pitched over his limit in terms of innings as a starter this year. So I think that a team that's going to want to have him, go for him is going to be by the bullpen because he's already gotten a lot of max with his overall starting innings. So the only team that I see doing that is the LA Dodgers, because the LA Dodgers have a really good starting rotation, and he could be able to be in their rotation, but also be in their bullpen. And I think that the Dodgers with Andrew Freeman, they could probably figure something out. I do think the Orioles have a shot. I'm not discrediting that by any means in terms of what your prediction was, but kind of the way that they're going to approach Crochet in terms of the money, I think is going to be a big factor in terms of why they're going to go for somebody like Eric Fetty or a guy like a Jack Flaherty per se, where they kind of know that they're going to just get a starter and not somebody that could be potentially a starter and a bullpen guy, given what type of stuff he's asking for and the innings limit, and especially another guy too that has some injury problems as well too with Crochet. So in terms of the Cubs, you were mentioned as well. Yeah, of course, that's big news for them. Outside of Cody Bellinger, Seiya Suzuki, I think it'd be somebody, for a guy in the second half could, give a team a bat. Jameson Taillon is connected with both of our teams right now, the Yankees and the Red Sox. Ryan, you're already shaking your head about that. You don't want that reunion. I think he'd be great with the Red Sox. That's actually my place I have him in my picks. I think that he would give us a lot of innings. And we don't know outside of, Brian Bayo, Tanner Houck, and a couple guys from next year's rotation. Nick Pivetta could be out the door. He could be kind of a guy that maybe could replace Nick next year in the rotation. So not only you can sign him for this year, but you can get him terms for the next couple of years. So I think Ty could be a really underrated guy at the deadline. And then Justin Steele. I know that Justin Steele could possibly be out there as a trade underrated target. I know it's kind of far fetched, but I also don't think it's as far fetched as a guy like Tarek Skubal. I think that if there's a team out there for Justin Steele, I think they're going to try to do it. And one team that I could see doing it is the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Arizona Diamondbacks have really, really struggled overall in their rotation. I know Jordan Montgomery was hoping to kind of be that guy, but he's really struggled for his first year there. And I feel like that there could be a team in that second half maybe make a push for a guy like Justin Steele. Probably 50-50 on him. I wouldn't be shocked though if he sticks around. But yeah, the Cubs are definitely going to be moving some pieces. Maybe Christopher Morel as well too. Team that might need some second base help and it won't have to cost a lot. Yeah, I mean, outside of that, we kind of talked about obviously the White Sox for a while. Luis Robert Jr., Eric Fetty. I think the Phillies could be making a push for like an outfield bat. Also too, Ryan, because the Dodgers typically seem to be on everybody. Apparently there are reports that they're in on Randy Rosarina. Because why wouldn't they? So that's another thing to kind of watch out for. Does Randy get moved? The Rays, I think, are going to be full-on sellers. So there's a lot of stuff that I can get through and I can touch with. But to keep kind of matters worse, I think that School will stick around. I think the Cubs will probably move on from Suzuki, Tyon, a couple of their mid-tier guys, rotation guys, maybe like a Drew Smiley type. And then the Rays are going to be sellers, and the White Sox are just going to deplete. The White Sox, right, as bad as they are, they haven't even touched 31 yet. I thought maybe at this point in time, we're almost at August. You wouldn't think even as bad as they are. So they're definitely getting just rid of everybody. I think they're purposely tanking. I mean, they can't be this. I mean, they're bad, but I couldn't think that they are on a records pace. So that's pretty much all I got to say.
Yeah, another team that I wanted to just quickly touch on in terms of being sellers at the deadline are the division rival Blue Jays. I think it's very conceivable that you can see Chad Green being dealt at the deadline. There's been talks between the Yankees reuniting with Chad Green as well. Green's having a resurgent year this year. He's had a very good year with the Blue Jays. Another name from the rotation that I think is going to be dealt at the deadline is Yusei Kikuchi. Kikuchi, overall, his numbers aren't pretty, but he still has good stuff. He's also killed the Yankees, as far as I know. I definitely think he's another arm that's going to be dealt at the deadline somewhere. Possibly, you could also see I don't know, you could maybe see Kevin Gausman or Chris Bassett being dealt at the deadline. I know both of them still have another year or two on their current deals with Toronto. Kikuchi's deal is up after this year, so I think Kikuchi most likely is going to be dealt at the deadline somewhere. I think that, like I mentioned, a lot of teams are just hungry for arms. I think maybe you could see Kikuchi being dealt somewhere, maybe like Los Angeles, Baltimore, or New York. It really is a toss-up.
Yeah, I got Kikuchi in my predictions. I have him going to the Guardians or the Twins. I think the AL Central, there's some teams that need some pitching. The Guardians, I think, are been a really good offensive team, but they've really struggled with innings. So I think that he'd be a good fit there. And then the Twins, the Twins every single year when it comes to the playoffs, it's always the pitching as the Achilles heel. So they need to have something there. So I think that he's going to be a good fallback option for a lot of teams, but maybe for some teams that are just kind of looking for that secondary market, he's a good fit.
Yeah, well, Cleveland also could use a big bat in their lineup as well. I mean, they have a lot of good bats in that lineup, obviously, with Stephen Kwan and Josh Naylor and Jose Ramirez, obviously. Those are their big three bats in that lineup, but they could definitely use another bat in there. They don't really have a lot of power. They are more of a small ball team. They put the ball in play a lot. They don't strike out a lot, which is good, but they could definitely use a little more power. I don't know if the White Sox would be willing to deal somebody like Luis Robert Jr. or somebody like that. I did bring up, the Cubs earlier, but then again, it wouldn't make – well, I guess Cody Bellinger could possibly move to the outfield if the Cubs and the Guards would be willing to do some kind of deal or something like that, because the Guardians already have Josh Naylor stationed at first base, so Bellinger wouldn't be there. So he would probably go to the outfield if they wanted to do something there. There's just a lot of different possibilities. And honestly, if you look at this year's trade deadline, there really aren't any huge names that I think are going to be, total difference makers or something like that. The names that are being thrown around are very good. They're really good, but there's no like superstars I think involved in this year's trade deadline. I don't think you're going to see anybody who's a huge name in and around Major League Baseball. And it'll be interesting. It'll be an interesting time for sure. And there's always these predictions. These predictions are hit or miss. I mean, you can never really tell what's up one sleeve. And but I think the teams that are going to be making the most moves this trade deadline are going to be the Orioles, the Dodgers, the Yankees, and the Guards. I think those are the four teams that I think are going to be making more moves than anybody else at this year's trade deadline. And we'll see. We shall see. Like I said, I know we've talked about this in numerous episodes before. By next week, we're going to be seeing the results. We're going to be finding out where guys are going to be going and we'll see. And we'll give our predictions on how we feel about some of these moves. But the trade deadline, I believe, is it the 30th or the 31st? I'm always getting confused.
It's this upcoming Tuesday.
Okay, this upcoming Tuesday. So today is the 25th. So
got 6 days.
6 days left. So yeah, the 30th. So that'll be July 30th. So yeah, the clock's ticking, and it's time for some teams to. The clock is ticking, and I think we're going to be starting to see some moves this weekend, and it's going to be interesting. It really is.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. It also makes me excited, and I know we'll talk about some things the Red Sox are doing, but the Red Sox. We found out yesterday, despite them getting shellacked by one of our teams in baseball, what type of position they're going to be moving towards in terms of the deadline. So I'll talk a little bit about that, Ryan, when we will get to.
Yeah, why don't we get into it right now?
Sure.
So this weekend is going to be round 3 of the Yankees and Red Sox in 2024. I feel like we just faced each other just a few weeks ago. Like, why do we have to face each other again? Can I get a break from Fenway Park? But no.
Well, we didn't say that a couple months ago, where we're kind of begging to play each other, but now it's like, oh well, nice seeing you.
Here we go again. So round 3 between the Yankees and the Red Sox is this weekend, and Ben just mentioned how the Red Sox got shellacked by one of the worst teams in baseball yesterday against the Colorado Rockies, which was pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie, you give up 20 runs to the Colorado Rockies. That's pretty embarrassing.
But it's funny enough because I was talking to a guy on Twitter, Rocky fan on Twitter. He's like, Coors Field is some weird shit. A lot of runs. It's pitchers. I mean, I love Tanner Houck and Nick Pivetta, but it seems like the pitching at Coors Field something. I mean, obviously, no one take excuses away because we played awful baseball, but the ball just flies at Coors Field. I mean, I was just watching these games. I'm like, damn, that ball is going like 400 feet. I'm like, damn, that's sky, man, too. It's a place I really got to check out too. That's a place on my bucket list. It looks like just such a nice park. So it's what it is. They got to move on.
Yeah, Coors Field is a very difficult place to pitch in, no doubt, and it's always been that way ever since it first opened, and it probably always will be as long as it stands. But the Red Sox have been slumping ever since the All-Star break ended. They got swept in Los Angeles by the Dodgers, and they just lost 2 out of 3 to the Rockies, like I mentioned. And my team got completely embarrassed this week, getting swept at the hands of their little brother, the New York Mets. The Mets absolutely dominated the Subway Series this year, going a perfect 4-0 against the Yankees. The Yankees absolutely embarrassed themselves last night, especially getting shellacked 12-3. Hence the reason for this beautiful sign that I made that I have stuck to my forehead, because I am a loser for continuously putting myself out there and rooting for this team and thinking this is going to be a different year, and it's the same crap every single year. This team will get my hopes up at some point during the year, and I think, okay, this is the year that they'll end this drought of a world championship. I want to talk, by the way. I know there are other fans of other teams who said, you have no idea what we've gone through. And you're right. I do. You're absolutely right. As a Yankee fan, we have different standards. We're spoiled rotten, and this is our standard. And this is not acceptable as a Yankee fan. Getting absolutely embarrassed at home against the Mets. And the way that they lost last night was absolutely disgraceful. it was home runs galore, more men left on base. The Yankees left the bases loaded, I think, twice in the game, and it was just incredibly frustrating. And ever since that first series against the Red Sox at Fenway Park, the Yankees have just been a different team. They have been one of the worst teams in all of baseball. They have similar records from if you go back from that moment when the Yankees lost that first game at Fenway Park that weekend in June to where we are now. Their record is almost as bad, I think, as the Angels and the White Sox, two other bad teams in Major League Baseball. And it's gotten to the point where I've hit a wall, and I am going to probably go out on a limb here. And I am just going to whenever we have this show, I'm just going to come on here and keep this sign posted to my forehead until we break out of this slump. I can't do it anymore. I just physically can't do it. I have to poke fun at myself, and I got to poke fun at this team because they just drive me crazy year after year after year. So, yeah, I'm losing it. I am absolutely losing it.
Ryan, I don't want to have you to keep wearing that, but maybe you might want to wear it after this weekend, just a little bit longer. If maybe you want to wait, I'd greatly appreciate it. Yeah, Ryan, both of our teams are going through right now. I mean, the Red Sox, sometimes with like a lot of teams, they really need the All-Star break. The Red Sox were not wanting to have the All-Star break when it was happening. And I know that you and Tom talked last week about the All-Star game and this and that. I felt like when I was on the cruise ship early last week, I was on cloud nine. My vacation was starting. The Red Sox, the first day I got there, I was watching the game on the cruise where they beat the Royals. That last game, really, really crazy game. And then the Home Run Derby happened. That was fun. Really entertaining. Then Jarren Duran, my beloved Jarren Duran, who I've talked about on here, finally showed why he deserved to be in the All-Star game. In that go ahead 2-1 home run for the AL, which, by the way, the AL just keeps on kicking the NL's ass just again. And then he gets the MVP. I mean, just what a story, what a turn on after the second year. Looking over the ball side from Romel Tapia, the inside of Parker. We all know that. Don't talk to me about it. Don't remind me. But yeah, and then the Dodger series happens. They are kind of looking good. I was only hoping at least maybe 2 games. At least taking one would be even fine because you got the Rockies. I'm like, all right, the one of the worst teams in baseball. They'd be like, all right, catch some ground. And the first game, the Red Sox were up 1-0 in the 8th inning. They blew it. All right, give it up to Freddie Freeman. It's what it is. Now, Ryan, the bullpen for the Red Sox was one of the biggest reasons why they've been struggling mightily. They've been without Chris Martin and Justin Slade, 2 of their main guys, the key guys in the back end. And Kenley Jansen couldn't pitch against the Rockies because of understandably things. He's had some heart problems ever since he's gone over to Colorado pitching in the past, and he didn't decide to go this time. And I understand the move. But that just takes on just another weapon in our back end where it kicked us once again, where the Red Sox were up. They were actually down the point in the first game of the Rockies 4-0. They clawed their way back to tie it. And then they were up in I think it was the 11th inning. No, yeah. 10th inning maybe? 1 out, a guy on second base, the bottom of the order for the Rockies. Of course, the guy ties it up. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And it was literally just like Kike Hernandez. Sorry, Kike, I love you, but you really just had to do that this past Saturday against Kenley. And then he does it again. 2 outs, Greg Weissert, who, by the way, Ryan, that Greg Weissert, Alex Verdugo trade, that's a lose-lose. Greg Weissert, for, I would say, most times than not, has just been, it's time. It's time for him to go. Just like Verdugo for the Yankees. Verdugo with the Yankees, that course has ran its course. But, yeah, so both of our teams are kind of going through it. The Red Sox, I'd say, more at this point, are just in a slump. With you, Ryan, the Yankees, I don't know how you feel, if it's more of a long slump, just a slump, a stretch. I don't know how to think it. But essentially, both of the teams are going to kind of go through it at the worst times possible. So round 3 should be fun because both of our teams are kind of not looking great right now.
Yeah, I don't define this as just a slump anymore. This has been going on for over a month now, about a month and a half now. This has reached critical mass right now, and the Yankees desperately need to start turning it around. It looked like they could have turned it around a couple of weeks ago, right before the All-Star break against Baltimore, they were on the verge of sweeping them. Of course, the Yankees, choked that game away by giving that game away on a silver platter, thanks to the horrific defense of Anthony Volpe and Alex Verdugo. And, they've kind of just fallen right back into this never-ending cycle of win a game, lose a game, win a game, lose a game. Take one step forward, take two steps back. It's been this way for over a month now, and it's incredibly frustrating. And again, the Yankees are relying – too much of the work done on offense has been done by Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. And, there have been times where, the Yankee lineup explodes and they score a bunch of runs. There have been, a couple of games where they've scored like 10 or more runs. And, everybody's clicking and you're thinking, all right, everyone's on all cylinders. Everybody's back together again. And then the next day they get shut out 3-0. So it's this Jekyll and Hyde phase that just has been going on for way too long now. And it's ridiculous. And I got to sit here and listen to Aaron Boone say it's right there in front of us time and time again. And I want to rip my hair out of my scalp. It's so infuriating. And I want more urgency. I want this team. This team went out there this offseason and made the moves like to get Juan Soto, to get Alex Verdugo, to win the World Series. Soto obviously has lived up to his expectations. Verdugo has not. Verdugo has been a massive disappointment this year, and he's been in a terrible slump for well over a month now. Ever since he hit that home run in his first at-bat at Fenway, he hasn't done jack you-know-what. He's done absolutely nothing. And he has looked. This is the worst he's looked in his entire career. He's never looked at this. He never looked this bad as a Red Sox. I'll tell you that. This is by far. This is the worst Alex Verdugo has looked in his major league career thus far. And you can see it in his head too. You can see it on the field. His body language is terrible. He's not running down to first base, which is what pissed Red Sox fans off for all those years. He's running maybe 3 feet and then he just starts running back to the dugout because he's so disgusted with himself. I get you're frustrated, but you got to show more effort, man. You have to. And, his big error in Baltimore definitely didn't help out his cause.
Oh, yeah.
And Yankee fans are just starting to get fed up with him, and I don't blame him. And Verdugo's not necessarily helping himself out either. He's a free agent after this year. If he wanted to get a nice long contract, he's not necessarily helping himself out here with the way he's playing. His average has dropped to as low as Gleyber Torres is, and Torres has been awful all year. So that's how far Verdugo's been off. He's hit well below 200 for the past month. I checked his average. I checked his average in like his last 30 or 45 games. I think it was something like 160 or 175. It's really bad. And the Yankees are basically limping into Fenway Park this weekend. It's like The Walking Dead. They just are a lifeless zombie that's just coming into Fenway Park, and I really don't know what else to say other than the Yankees need to take this series. There's really no other way to say it. They got to get something going, man. The Red Sox have beaten you the first 2 series of this season. You got to repay them somehow. You got to win this series, to say the least. You have to. And, Friday night is Brian Bayo against Nestor Cortez. Nestor got rocked in his last start against the Tampa Bay Rays at Yankee Stadium, and he has struggled on the road all season long. So I don't know how to feel going into Friday night. I'm not necessarily getting my hopes up. Honestly, I don't like that matchup. Bayo's 10-5, but he's got a very high ERA. So.
He's pitched better the last couple outings. He pitched well in LA. He's given up last couple games some home runs, but at least he's gone a little bit farther deeper in innings. I mean, he's had a really tough year this year given his standards, but and he didn't pitch well against the Yankees the first time at Fenway. I mean, the one good thing, Ryan, that you might shed some hope on is the Red Sox on Fridays are abysmal. Compared to what they are on Sundays, the Red Sox on Fridays, you might as well just take Friday out of the week specific to the Red Sox because they just don't know how to play on it. So that might be something given that. But Nestor, you're right. Nestor on the road sucks. And if there's one place to pitch where you are sucking out of all places on the road, Fenway is the last place you want to pitch. So,
yep, it's not going to be an easy task. And I mean, if there's there's any positives going to the game is that Nestor pitched very well in his last start against the Red Sox, which was the game that we went to. Struck out Rafael Devers 3 times, which is something that never happens with the Yankees when it comes to Rafael Devers. Devers usually hits 3 home runs rather than record 3 strikeouts. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, Friday night, tomorrow night, July 26th, is Cortez against Bayo. Saturday on July 27th, it is Marcus Stroman against Cutter Crawford. Both pitchers kind of have similar stats. But Stroman, for the most part, has been good, although he's had a couple of clunkers here and there. Cutter Crawford.
I wouldn't say he's the main. I want to say Stroman is the main issue. I mean, given like when Stroman came in, a lot of Yankee fans are ripping on Montoya, and deservedly so. I mean, he had some stuff off the air about them, this and that. But given kind of where the Yankees are at this point in time, you would have thought maybe Stroman would kind of have some negative effects on it. He has actually been one of the more positive guys overall at the time, which I give credit for.
No, he's been a big plus. Honestly, he's probably, out of all the pitchers in that rotation, I mean, besides Clark Schmidt, who went down with an injury, Stroman's probably been the most consistent starter this whole year. I mean, like I mentioned, he's had some clunkers here and there, but for the most part, he's been solid. He's always kept the Yankees in the game for the most part whenever he's taken them out. So, you just hope that he's able to do that again on Saturday. His previous start at Fenway Park wasn't very good, though. He struggled. So, you just hope that he atones for it this time around. And like I mentioned, he'll be opposed by Cutter Crawford. Crawford, of course, shoved against the Yankees at Yankee Stadium a couple of weeks ago. He outpitched Luis Heel. The Yankees had no answer for him at all. So, hopefully, for my sake and for the Yankees' sake, they, they turn the page and they figure out Cutter Crawford. There's really no other way of saying it. Crawford's had a very good year. Obviously, he's had the Yankees number for a while now. I don't really know the last time the Yankees really hit him well. So, hopefully the Yankees are able to, figure that out. And then on Sunday, it is Carlos Rodon against Tanner Houck. Rodon has been up and down all season long. Well, actually, he got off to a very good start, and then he went through a prolonged stretch of ineptitude. And he finally had his first dominant outing in what felt like an eternity against Tampa on Monday when he struck out 10. But he still has a very hideous ERA to look at. And he is somebody who I'm very ambivalent towards. There are times where I love him, and then there are times where I hate him. And honestly, you look at this contract so far, he has not lived up to the hype. He has not lived up to it at all. Obviously, last year was a disaster with all the injuries and the horrible starts. And it looked like this year he had turned the corner because he got off to a good start, but he's come back to earth and he's looking like the Rodon of last year in most of his starts since really that Fenway start. That Fenway start was really when he started to just go downward, and he just has not been pitching well. And he'll be opposed by Tanner Houck. Houck has been the Red Sox best starter all year, and that is no easy task for the Yankees. So my prediction for this weekend, based on the way the Yankees have been playing, being unbiased, you're playing at Fenway Park. You're facing some pretty decent arms. I think maybe they can take the first game, but I don't know about the second and the third game. I think, being unbiased, I say Red Sox take 2 of 3. I just don't like the way the Yankees have been playing. I don't like the way that they've been swinging the bats. I don't like the way that they've been pitching. And this is a critical series for both teams. Both teams really need this series. Maybe the Red Sox more so than the Yankees because of where they are in the standings. But yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah. You were talking about Verdugo, Ryan, and there's some overall gross stats to back things up. The Yankees, between DJ LeMahieu, JD Davis, and Alex Verdugo, guys that are pretty much now your guys' everyday lineup. 3 of the top guys when it comes to ground ball percentage. I think JD Davis has one of the highest ground ball rates in Major League Baseball. Alex Verdugo has had the most ground balls, it feels like, for an eternity. And then DJ LeMahieu, we don't even have to talk about. I mean, this guy specifically, I think 75% of the time he just grounds out. So
gotta be higher than 75. I think it's more like 85.
And then the ground balls he's hitting aren't even that hard. They're just ground balls right to the guy consistently.
They're batting practice ground balls.
So Brian Bayo does a really good job when he is on of getting the ball down and forcing ground balls. So that could be something that could be a positive for him. But I agree with you, Ryan. I mean, the Red Sox, I feel like something to me. If anything with the Yankees are going to get on the hot streak, well, the way the Red Sox are playing the first two times, the Red Sox are coming kind of on a really good streak. They're kind of coming a little cold, so you guys might be getting us at the right time. But yeah, I think the Red Sox take 2 of 3. I think that they come back. They're back at home. I think they kind of need this after a tough West Coast trip. Sometimes the West Coast trip for a lot of teams just kind of take a lot of energy out. And it was right after the All Star break. So I think they really need this, especially with the trade line coming up. Yeah, I'm gonna go 2 of 3. I think the Red Sox lose Friday because they're just awful on Fridays. Saturday, I think, is a toss up, but I think it's at home. Cutter, I think, had an awful outing against the Dodgers where he gave up the Shohei Ohtani home run that I think the ball still hasn't left the park yet. I mean, that ball specifically had a massive family. I don't know what Cutter Crawford did to you, Shohei, but he took his soul out for sure just on that one swing. And then Sunday Night Baseball at Fenway, Red Sox, Yankees. Red Sox don't lose against the Yankees on Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. So, yeah, going 2 or 3.
Yep, it's not going to be fun. But this is the last. If there's
It's
any
ugly series for both of us, right? It's not going to be. I don't think a lot of runs.
the quality of baseball might be pretty bad this weekend. Honestly, it might be very, very bad. The only positives that I could find from the series is that Garrett Cole's not pitching at Fenway Park this weekend because God, that would have been a disaster for me. It would have been fun for you and all Red Sox fans because Devers probably would have taken him over the Green Monster 2 more times.
I'm right.
Like that. Last thing that I needed was another Cole massacre at Fenway Park. So I was saying this to a couple of the Yankee fans. Garrett Cole as a Yankee cannot. I said this. I don't know if as frustration or if this was legitimate. Maybe both. I feel that as a Yankee fan, Garrett Cole has just not pitched well against the Yankees' biggest rivals as a Yankee. That being the Red Sox and the Mets mostly. I mean, the Astros are a Yankees' big rival too. For the most part, he's actually pitched pretty good against the Astros as a Yankee. But when it comes to the Red Sox, forget it. And when it comes to the Mets, forget it. I just feel like he just gets rocked against those teams. I don't know if it's the pressure. I don't know if it's the pressure of having to step up in those big games. You know, because obviously you're playing for pride and you're playing for bragging rights, and you don't want to lose to your most hated rivals. But I feel like for the most part, he just has not delivered in those kinds of games.
Yeah, no, I think it's more often than not. I mean, he just gives up home runs on a higher percentage against those teams, and it's given the home runs with just the way that happened. That's the timely home runs he's given. He's given up a lot with guys on base. I mean, the Lindor homer that he gave up. I never seen Garrett Cole throw a lot of cutters, Ryan. I didn't know that he had a lot of that.
His cutter usage is up significantly this year from last year.
I don't know. I mean, obviously with his injury and stuff, maybe he wanted to put them more to kind of take away that from more of his work with his arm or something. But that cutter last night did not look good at all. I mean, he gave up. I mean, the homers that he gave, the one they gave to Lindor was right in his wheelhouse. A 92-93 location was absolutely right there for Lindor to just park it, and he did. So, I don't know what it is. I mean, I know that Trevino is his catcher, and I know that Trevino has been kind of hurt right now, so maybe that puts into a park like that. Who caught for you guys last night?
Wells.
Okay. Is he his personal catcher, or is it typically Trevino?
No, it's mostly Trevino, but Wells has caught a couple of times this year, and honestly, I don't believe in the whole personal catcher thing. I think you got to move. You got to be able to throw the ball to whomever.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. But stats still play with it. Sometimes catchers just do a lot more better than other ones, and maybe there's just something there. But this is not an excuse for the cold pitch last night. That was an abomination.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've been talking about this topic for almost like 15 minutes, so we got to move on to the next one. So, a couple of days ago, Major League Baseball released the 2025 regular season schedule, and for the second year in a row, the regular season officially begins in Asia, abroad, and next year it's going to be in Japan. It'll be a 2-game set between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Chicago Cubs. from March 18th to March 19th. I believe this takes place at the Tokyo Dome, if I'm not mistaken, where Major League Baseball has had opening days before. As a matter of fact, both of our teams have opened seasons up in Tokyo before. I know you guys did it all the way back in 2008 against Oakland. Yankees did it all the way back in 2004 against Tampa Bay. So Major League Baseball returns to Tokyo. I think this will be the first opening day in Tokyo since 2019, if I'm not mistaken, when it was Seattle and Oakland, I believe.
That sounds right.
Because that was Ichiro's farewell.
Yeah.
And this will mark the return of Shohei Ohtani to Japan. You can bet your bottom dollar that he's going to be starting one of those 2 games for the Dodgers.
And hit a home run.
And hit a home run. There's no doubt in my mind that he's going to be doing that as well. But that'll be interesting. Obviously, I got to look at the Yankees' 2025 regular season schedule. The Yankees open up the season at home against Milwaukee. So that's a little strange. And I mean, opening up at Yankee Stadium in late March is always a risk because of the weather, obviously. The Yankees, I liked the way that they opened up this season with all those games, in the domed, Minute Maid Park and in Arizona as well. But yeah, they open up at home against Milwaukee. Then they face the Diamondbacks at home for the second year in a row. Their second series is against Arizona. The schedule honestly looks a lot like this year's schedule, except that the locations are reversed with the American and National League this year, obviously. Yeah. So it looks a lot similar. The Yankees end next year against Baltimore at Yankee Stadium. So that might be an interesting series. But yeah, and also the Yankees and Mets next year will be facing each other 6 times instead of 4. So it'll be 2 3-game weekend series.
And I think on the 4th of July.
Yeah, no, that'll be an interesting scenario. 4th of July at Citi Field. I'm sure everybody will be civil.
Yeah, just a little.
But yeah, the 2025 schedule was released. I don't know if you had the chance to look at the Red Sox schedule, if there were any matchups that jumped out to you.
I looked at a little bit. I know the Red Sox go to Wrigley next year, so that's, I think, after the All-Star break. They, like you're mentioning, it's kind of like this year, but like a lot of the team that they play just kind of flip-flop. I think they start really quick. Just bear with me, Ryan, because like I said, I was on vacation when they announced we were playing. I think the Cardinals. We play the Cardinals at home. I know we play the Mets at home at some point as well too. But I'll give you at least on the RedSox.com. Okay, so the first 2 series we have are in Texas. And then against going to Baltimore. So a little bit of a tough stretch to open up. But, Texas, their heat and stuff, it might not be the worst. And then Baltimore, I mean, it's early April. I know it's still kind of cold, but, it's what it is.
And again, the Yankees and the Red Sox won't meet each other for the first time until June again. So, yeah, keep that trend going, I guess.
Rinse and repeat.
Rinse and repeat indead. But yeah, the Dodgers and the Cubs will be the first 2 regular season games of next year. And it'll be exciting to see Ohtani return to Tokyo. That's definitely going to be something that baseball fans will be looking forward to. And yes, he will absolutely most definitely hit a home run. And he'll probably strike out 10 Cubs in 5 innings. And then he'll have to be taken out, obviously, for precautionary reasons because of his repaired labrum. Or his repaired UCL, I should say. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the Major League Baseball season for next year is all set. One thing that I think is worth noting is that if you look at the schedules around the league, the Athletics are now defined by the letters ATH instead of OAK because nobody knows where they're going to be playing next year. I mean, obviously,
there's a lot of use to for sure. That's going to feel weird.
I mean, obviously, Sacramento is that's what they're saying. Sacramento heat, though, in the summer is unbearable, though. And you got to play some games during the day. So make sure you bring a lot of water if you go to those games, I guess.
Yeah.
Ugh, God, what a disaster. And now it's time to put on the doctor's gloves and masks because we got some injury news that we need to get to. We haven't done one of these in a while. But,
yeah.
but we need to discuss some injuries that have been going on around the league. So I want to start with the team that has been hit with probably the team that's probably been hit with the most injuries this year, the Atlanta Braves. My God,
Oh,
this team just can't catch a break. My God, it's ridiculous.
yeah.
Oh, we've mentioned Ronald Acuna is done for the year. He went down with a torn ACL, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
ACL. He's gone. Spencer Strider had Tommy John surgery. He's done for the year. The Braves now, you can add Ozzy Albies to this list.
6 weeks.
8 weeks.
8 weeks. Damn. I thought
Eight
it was
weeks.
6, but
He
give
had
it.
he has a wrist fracture. So he had a wrist fracture. He fractured his wrist after applying a tag to a base runner in a game last week, I believe, or a couple of days ago. I forget exactly when this happened. But Albies, unfortunately, is going to be gone, and I don't even know if he's going to be able to come back this year. I mean, 8 weeks, that's about 2 months. So if he does come back, it won't be till the very, very end of the year.
Yeah.
And we'll see what kind of position the Braves are even in at that point. So that's a huge loss for the Braves. And again, this team has just been through so much this year in terms of their health. It's honestly kind of like the 2019 Yankees, where one guy went down and then another guy went down. But the big difference was that the Yankees stayed in first for most of that year, and the Braves have been chasing the Phillies for all of this year, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is the last thing that the Braves needed. And to make matters even worse, Max Fried is on the 15-day IL with a nerve inflammation. So,
no wonder why they're going through it right now. They had to have a team meeting, I think, a couple days ago. Half of their best players are hurt, and then Matt Olson has taken a Pete Alonso dip in terms of overall play this year. I mean, his stats have been compared to I think last year, the year before, he had like 40+ homers.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Olson has really had a down year this year, so that's a big issue for them as well.
Yeah, Olson's had a pretty bad year.
Riley's been like a little up and down too. He hasn't been
pretty consistent this year.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, for the Braves, I think the division's out of reach at this point. Obviously, I think their streak of division titles is coming to an end after this season. They still could obviously make the playoffs. They're still in a wild card spot, but yeah, they're very thin on depth right now, and it's unfortunate. It really is, because the Braves as a whole, with all that talent, they're a fun team to watch.
So good. Mm-hmm.
But that's just not the case. That's not the team that they have right now. It's a completely different team, and they've been playing some shaky baseball as well recently. And we'll see if it carries on. But
we got the Mets this weekend. That's a big series for them.
Yeah, it's a huge series, and they have their work cut out for them. The Braves, I think, the Braves need that series, obviously, not only for obvious reasons in the standings, but I think also a confidence booster that despite everything, they can still compete. I think they're starting to feel, a little bit of pressure and a little bit of side effects from losing all of their key guys.
Right.
So we'll see what happens there. The Braves aren't the only one who are dealing with injuries. The Seattle Mariners have been dealing with injuries.
Yep.
Julio Rodriguez has a fractured ankle. He tried making a spectacular catch in a game against the Astros this past weekend. He jumped into the wall, and his ankle buckled under him, basically, and it went out. So he's got an injured ankle. He's going to be on the 15-day IL. Honestly, it could have been worse.
Yeah.
He's lucky and I don't think there's a fracture or anything. So I think it's just a badly swollen ankle, if I'm not mistaken. So you ask me, the Mariners caught a break there, but unfortunately they did not catch a break with J.P. Crawford. He has a fractured pinky. He got hit in the hand with a pitch, and now he's got a fractured pinky, and it isn't known how long he'll be out for. But I think there could be a chance he may not come back this season. So that's not good at all. And the Mariners have really been struggling. Obviously, they just fell out of first place to the Astros, who have completed their comeback to the top of the American League West. Now the Mariners are really, really thin on the offensive category. They definitely need to make some moves at the deadline. They got to get another bat or two. So we'll see what kind of moves the Mariners make. But that's very, very bad news for the Mariners. And that's the last thing that they needed, especially with the Astros coming back to full health. And now the Mariners are lacking the depth and the talent. It's going to be hard for them to compete for that division title. It really is. It's going to be a grind. And like I mentioned, they just have not been playing good baseball as well. Elsewhere, Christian Yelich has a significant back injury. Huge loss for the Brewers right there. And I saw there was a tweet from Ken Rosenthal saying that there could be a chance that Yelich might need season-ending back surgery. So Yelich's back has been barking all season long, and it looks like it's at its worst now. And that's a huge loss for the Brewers, and they're going to need somebody to step up and try and replace Yelich. But that's not an easy bat to replace. And there's just been a lot of significant injuries going on around baseball all year long. And now that we're down to the final 2 months of the regular season, it's crucial for guys to stay on the field. And unfortunately, losing guys of this caliber is not good for any team. And I think there was one more injury that I saw happen not too long ago. Byron Buxton got hit with a pitch for the Twins, and he had to come out of a game. And I don't know. I don't think any news is broken about this yet, but based on Buxton's history and how fragile his body is, I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes an IL stint as well.
Yeah, Buxton is he has so much of the talent in the world because he's such a great player. But the injuries have just been a massive thing to him. It just feels like he can never just stay in the field consistently, just put up the stats he wants to put up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like you mentioned, he's a very good talent, but injuries have just prevented him from reaching his full potential. So those are some of the major injury news that are going around Major League Baseball. We'll see if any of these guys are able to get back. But tough break for the Mariners, the Braves, the Brewers, and the Twins. All four teams are fighting for a playoff spot too, which makes it even worse. I don't think you touched on this when we were talking about the Yankees-Red Sox series, but Alex Cora.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So as bad as it's been since the All-Star break for the Red Sox, Jared Carabas, and shout out to the Rocket from Barstool Sports. He was a massive Sox fan, but he has some inside information time to time, and he put out just some eyeball emojis yesterday when I got to work, and I saw a tweet. I'm like, okay. Because more times than not, he put it out, the eyeballs, before the Chris Sale trade with Von Grissom. So he has some stuff, inside stuff. And he put 4 eyeball emojis out there. And so after Jeff Passan put out maybe 10, 15 minutes ago, something about Alex Cora having a momentum towards the deal with the Red Sox. And my reaction was like, let's effing go. I know Ryan was just off the air to me. He's just like, well, who are they going to replace? Part of me was just because I had my doubts with the way that the Red Sox, in terms of their ownership and things that they've been going the last couple of years, I thought more likely than not he was going somewhere else where he wanted to win. And for a championship type team, the Astros maybe, or the Dodgers, this and that. But this tells me 2 things. That one, they are promising that Alex Cora is going to be able to get a competitive team the second half. They're going to enforce the ownership to buy and spend, because I think that's what he wants to have. He had some comments last month in terms of, I don't want to just be a third wild card team. I want to be greedy and go for even more. So he's pushing for this team to have higher standards, given where the team has kind of overperformed this year. And now, given that, he gets rewarded. And shout out to AC, because I got a signed ball from him last year when I was at a game at Fenway. So he is my manager. He is somebody that I've loved pretty much. I think he is, ever since Terry Francona, I think he is one of my favorite managers the Red Sox have had. And it's a little bit of a shock. I mean, it's a shock in a good way, because the Red Sox, with their ownership these days, have not done great whatsoever. I mean, this is probably the most happy I've been since the Rafael Devers extension, but I feel like that was more of a pressured extension from ownership. This just feels like that they are like, we're going to give Alex Cora what he can get and not let him leave the door, because he could have left for a lot more higher bidders and teams. He is now, Ryan, $7 million extension, so he is now the second lowest to Craig Counsell, who got a big payday this past offseason from the Chicago Cubs. So that says a lot. That tells me that he believes in this team. He spoke yesterday after the loss, the disaster loss to the Rockies, that family was a big enforcer about that. He has a couple daughters that are currently in college, and he just loves the city himself. He's been talking highly about the city of Boston. And I think another thing, too, the players love him. And Endeavors loves him. Xander obviously loved him when he was around. So it speaks to high volumes in terms of him and the team too. I mean, the team this year, Ryan, was projected 77 wins, I think, from a lot of people, and he's given that team a chance to not only be in the playoffs, maybe make a little bit of a run in the playoffs, which I don't think any Red Sox fan envisions. So, for people that say that manager does not matter, I think you're foolish. I don't think that it speaks in terms of the way that the team should be able to play, but it's the way that it represents your team. Because yes, the players are the people that come first in terms of responsibility, but you need to have the guy to oversee things, right? You need to have that between the manager and the front office. You need to have two staples that be able to be an enforcer of team success, and that's what the Red Sox will be at least going to have for the next 3 years, as a guy that you can trust, right? And now hopefully it gives an incentive for front office to make some pushing moves. And timely enough, Craig Breslow, right after the game as well, too, yesterday said, we're going to add some pieces. And so that also made me very, very happy, because the Red Sox the last couple of years were very up. Well, we're going to take a look and see what the analytics say, this and that. Come on, pick a lane. It's either going to sell or buy. Like, I need to know an answer. And finally, we heard an answer on two things that I've been hoping for a long-ass time. I wasn't expecting the Ox core extension mid-part of this season, so that's also another bonus of, like, the timing of it is really, really interesting. And then, for them to buy. So as tough it is, Ryan, since the All-Star break, there's at least some stuff I can shed on and I can be happy about. So I'll take it as I can take for right now before the Yankees series.
Yep, big move for the Red Sox, obviously, and I'm sure it's a move that many Red Sox fans are happy about. So, I mean, obviously, as a Yankee fan, I'm not a fan of Alex Cora, but it is what it is. So, Congratulations to you guys. I haven't done this in a while. I'll quickly run down around the league, just where teams are standing, because there's some things, because it's obviously worth noting. So the American League East, the Orioles lead the division by a game and a half over the Yankees. The Orioles 60-41. They're struggling just as bad as the Yankees have been recently. The Yankees, obviously, I've talked about them. 60-44 have been playing really badly for over a month now. The Red Sox struggling, obviously, but they're in third. They're 54-47, still a pretty respectable record. The Rays are at 500, 51-51, 9.5 back and 4.5 back in the wild card. And the Blue Jays are basically done at this point. They're 46-55. The American League Central, the Guardians have actually been slumping a little bit, but they still have a comfortable lead, though, in the American League Central at 61-40. The Twins are at 56-45. The Royals are at 56-47. They've been playing a little bit better recently. Bobby Witt Jr. nearly came within a single of a cycle until he got hit by a pitch from the Diamondbacks. There was a little bit of a brawl between the Diamondbacks and the Royals a couple of nights ago. So that wasn't very fun. Tigers are at 50-53, and the Chicago White Sox are 50 games under 500 at 27-77. I actually looked at this up. I was very curious. Their record right now is actually worse than the 2003 Tigers were at this point. The Tigers lost 119 games that year. They were 43-119. The White Sox right now are ahead of that pace.
That's impressive. That's impressively bad.
They are, and they have lost 10 in a row again. They have lost 10 in a row again. My God, I feel so bad for White Sox fans. If you're a White Sox fan, God bless your heart.
Just know, right? It could be worse.
I know it could be worse. I know. I'm one to talk. I'm the one wearing this loose leaf paper on my forehead, and I could be a White Sox fan, so I gotta watch myself here. American League West, the Astros are in first place at 53-49. They are one game ahead of the Mariners, who are 53-51. The Rangers have been playing a little bit better. They're at 50-52, only 5.5 back.
Me and the White Sox, though, so anybody can beat the White Sox.
The Angels are in fourth at 45 and 57, and of course, the lowly A's are at 41 and 63. American League West is a disaster, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
National League East, the Phillies 64 and 38. They haven't been winning at the pace as they have been at the beginning of the year. They've actually been slumping a little bit recently. They're 4 and 6 in their last 10, but they still have a very comfortable lead in the National League East, so they have nothing to worry about. The Braves are at 54 and 46. The Mets obviously swept the Yankees. They've been playing red hot baseball. They're at 53 and 48. Big series between the Mets and the Braves this weekend. The Nationals are at 47 and 55, and the Marlins are in last at 37 and 65. National League Central, the Brewers lead the charge at 59 and 43. The Cardinals are in second at 53 and 49. The Pirates are over 500 at 52 and 50. Paul Skeens has been a blessing for them. The Reds are in fourth at 49 and 53, and the Cubs are in last at 49 and 55. And finally, in the National League West, Dodgers, of course, lead the charge at 61 and 42. Padres are in second at 54 and 50. Diamondbacks probably are playing the best baseball that they've been playing all season long. They're at 53 and 50. The Giants are in fourth at 49 and 54. And, of course, the pathetic Rockies are in last at 38 and 65. Well, that's where Major League Baseball stands on July 25th, 2024 at 11:18 a.m. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add before we wrap this episode up.
Nope, you pretty much represented everybody perfectly. There's a lot of teams right now that's going through it, but the next time we talk, there might be some teams that have some new faces. So we'll talk about that for sure. And we'll see if our teams, best of luck this weekend for like the Battle of Mid. And we'll talk next week in terms of who wins the Battle of Mid.
Yep. So that'll do it for this episode. That's going to wrap things up. On behalf of Ben Kruse, I'm Ryan Touhey. We'll see you next time.